possibly set into motion a series of events leading to a large scale. Well, what are you thinking?
What I'm thinking.
I mean, I know you posted this. You posted this a week ago at least, right? So it's the situation's changed from when you posted it. So
Yes. I don't know. It just looks to me, it's got the feeling and the look. If you're a person who looks into history a lot and knows about that type of stuff, it feels a lot like the years leading up to like a World War One scenario. And not that it's that imminent or that that's definitely what's happening here, but these are the types of things that can lead to something like that if things get out of hand. If it starts to become, like I've heard, France is thinking about holding their own vote for the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I've heard. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is true, and let's just say for the sake of argument, now France breaks away. And then, at that point, how far-fetched is it? If France breaks away, Belgium is usually going to be right there. So now you have sides kind of pairing off against each other. And all it takes is a country like Russia or even Turkey, who had that big attack in the airport not too long ago.
Yeah.
The big issue is, or a lot of the big issue, I'm assuming, is the immigration thing. If a country like Turkey, who is historically Muslim, although I don't know if they still have it as a state religion now, I don't know how it works there, but if a country like that, who's not in the EU, but is right next to everybody, and then there's the EU, and then there's the fragmented parts, like in England and France, and then, Scotland and Ireland are going to basically, what are they going to do? They're going to have to be separate too, right? At a given point, they're not going to stay part of it with England being
yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're saying at the moment that there's going to be no second Scottish referendum, but
right.
That just means like in the next year or 2 years or something. We don't know, 5 years, 10 years.
So, I just see it as not that it's the worst thing in the world all the time, but isolationism leads to countries kind of like, they pair up. And once you get that web of, 3 or 4 or 5 big power countries allied against another group of countries that have always been allied, and then one little event, one weird thing that nobody saw coming could set it off. And these countries are all bound to each other. And it's like, anything could happen. I just compare it to World War One, the way that happened.
I can see what you're saying there, yeah. So, okay, my feeling on this is that this is actually, this sounds like a bit crazy, but I feel like Brexit is the beginning of the breakdown of states, and it starts with the super states like the EU. I think the layers of government are not necessary, and I think they're going to peel away. And people, when countries go to war, it's not the people fighting each other. It's like somebody's interests, somebody high up, or somebody in a bank, or
right,
somebody who's going to make money. It's their interests versus someone else. That's how it works. It's not some guy who has who owns like a supermarket or like a butcher's or baker or candlestick maker in the middle of Liverpool that's waging war. It's always
scares me, though. That's what makes me nervous, because when you get these countries that have differing interests, and you kind of, it's almost like sort of the same idea of what we were talking about before. It's almost on a pride thing. If France leaves, right? France and England now are allies. They have been for quite some time. Before they weren't, but now they are. A very long time ago they weren't. But if France and England kind of break away together, it's almost like a pride thing. Like, well, this has to work. We have to look good. If it doesn't,
so they will unite versus.
Right. Well, they almost certainly will have some form of an alliance together.
And add in Iceland and a bunch of other countries in the northern that north area.
And then if like I said, let's just say Turkey, has in some way a terrorist attack takes place in Germany from a Turkish national, and then Germany decides, well, wait a minute, you know what, we're tired of this. We're upset about France and England leaving. We didn't want that. That hurts us in a way. And now this Turkish guy attacked us. Even if it's not true, how about if this Turkish guy was somehow linked to the Turkish government now, and he took out one of our high-ranking officials, and we're going to call on England, and we're going to call on France to go to war with us. We're going to go to war with Turkey, and then Russia steps in. That's it. It's going to be those types of situations come to the point where it's either you're with us or against us type of stuff.
The other direction from what I was saying about the peeling away of these layers of things is NATO still exists.
That's true.
So that is a force to be reckoned with. So I could see, where I could see kind of both directions from where we are now.
I definitely think it could be a productive thing for them in a way.
For Britain or the EU?
For England, for England in the long term sense, it's possible that it could work out and everything be fine.
Yeah.
And I could see where they're thinking they might want to do it. On a government scale, what I can't see is how they got that many people to vote for it. That was shocking to me. Like I couldn't believe it when it happened. I was like completely blown away, and it's not because it's a crazy thought. I just didn't think that would happen. I thought they were.
I didn't think so either. I wanted it to happen, frankly, but I didn't expect it to happen. I felt like the British government was very pro-Remain, and they spent a lot of money sending out leaflets to people's houses and stuff like that. And the BBC was very pro-Remain, and I don't know about the other channels because I'm only getting filtered stuff because I live in the States now. But I see that there's just so much push from the powerful, the moneyed side to Remain that I was amazed that the British people went the other way.
Well, that's because
there's a lot of resentment.
Well, I think it's because of a lot of the politicians are probably people who are going to lose a lot of money based on this little decline it's going to cause. That's the other thing that's a little scary is how little of a decline is it going to be? Because it went down pretty sharply and then it came back a little bit. But we're still in the really early stages and nothing's actually happened yet either.
No, that's true. They haven't triggered Article 50 or anything. They haven't
So
done anything.
What happens, who knows where it goes?
Well, I bet a lot of people are betting that it's not going to happen.
Ever?
Well, I mean, there was talk of. There's all sorts of different stuff going on, but one of the things I've seen is there's going to be a hearing to decide whether they actually are going to do it or not.
Well, what I heard was that they want to have a second vote, but then they knocked that down. They said, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So at this point, how could they avoid it legally? I mean, they voted for it, right? Unless
apparently it was non-binding. Apparently it was like an advisory referendum. In other words, like they don't really want to do they want to give the appearance of democracy, but they don't really want to.
So it doesn't really mean anything.
No.
Unless
democracy is overrated anyway. It's a lynch mob is democracy.
That's the wrong word too. We're not really democracy. It's really a republic.
Oh, the U.S. Yeah.
You guys too, really.
Mm-hmm.
Technically.
I guess so. It's
a democratic republic. It's not a democracy.
Yeah.
A democracy, your vote counts for you. Your one vote counts for you. A republic, your one vote counts towards a representative that represents a number of voters, which is a ridiculous system.
Yes, totally ridiculous.
It's just it should never have even.
I never get the idea that you need to elect someone who basically was just like the most. It's like someone who you really don't know and you wouldn't choose. There's no merits in them necessarily, but they just decided they had the merit. They were worth running for office or something, and then you elect them, pay them a salary, and fly them across the country to meet with other people like them to make decisions that don't do any good for anyone.
It's crazy, and half of their job is taken up by trying to be picked to have their job.
Yeah.
It's just
it's all about the next cycle. Yeah,
it's a bad setup. But anyway, I mean, I'm not one to think that something like that would happen again now on that level.
Like a world war.
Yeah, because the world has changed a lot since then. But it just has that feel for me. If you look back at the history of the way it took place,
yes,
it's kind of eerie. It's almost exactly.
It definitely has that feel. Yeah, it does for sure. I mean, it's the movement of nations in Europe, isn't it? It's like massive transitions.
Yeah, and that's always been interesting to me. It's always been a lot of wild history took place in that era. Just 100 years ago, and it's very strange because of the way it took place. Here in America, it seems like a completely different world compared to what was going on over there. Not that we were that far ahead. It was just different. Like it was like cowboys and Indians here versus like the ending of like, feudal wars over there, like in a totally strange way. Like the Holy Roman Empire was still just been broken up not that long before that. And that's where all that started, because they were all together in the same way as an EU was, just maybe 100 years before that.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
Fracture, they broke away. Germany became a country only in 1870. People forget that Germany wasn't even a country.
Yeah.
130 years ago.
Yeah.
And they just got huge. They were super fast. They ate up a bunch of tiny countries that were always loosely connected, but they were never one nation. And once they did that, they got so powerful.
Yeah.
And they called up their old buddies and they were like, all right,
let's do this. Let's get the countries.
Just be ready for anything. And then, one guy gets killed by an assassin in a crazy way, and that's it. Everybody in the whole world gets sucked in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ferdinand, Archduke.
Yeah, what a crazy story.
I think one of the other things that I guess I was about to say that 21st century war is not about tanks and bombs, but I'm not sure if that's true, given that the things that you see around Russia and things like that. So,
well, they have all that stuff still. I mean, that stuff would still go into use, but it's a scary thought. It wouldn't be the same way as it was back then.
No.
It would be a lot scarier. Like, how long would countries wait? Back then, it was 21st century weapons meeting, like 18th century tactics.
Yes.
It's really ugly. That's why so many people died. Because
you're talking about trenches, right? Fighting in the trenches.
The trenches, and even before the trenches, it was even worse. They weren't even doing that. They were just having open field, 300,000 guys with just artillery like 10 miles away, just blasting away all day, every day for a month. Like, it's just a brutal way to do it. But now might be worse because of the distance. You don't even have to be anywhere near people to bomb them.
You don't really even need people to be involved.
Right, and that's even scarier. And the first thing that's going to start happening now compared to back then would be there definitely be more civilian targets in that type of war than there would be back then.
Yeah, that's true.
But I doubt, again, this is just a thing where I see the possibility of it looking the same. I doubt very seriously that European countries are going to go to all-out war with each other anymore.
Yeah, I don't feel like they will. I don't feel like I do feel like there's still massive problem with how the government behaves in comparison to how the people it represents would want it to behave.
Yeah.
But I think now they have to be a little bit more in line with what the people want because of social media and because